fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top here!
Oh my god! Oh. Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get rolled!
This is very close. These guys are going to want to make their way through the field very quickly. Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome one and welcome all to SimSpeed TV. You know what time it is. It's Friday night. That means it's time for Fixed Indy Australia, the 5th round of the championship from Atlanta Motor Speedway in Georgia. Been looking forward to this one for quite some time. Certainly going to be hard on the tyres for our drivers tonight, with a very old surface that dates back to the 1990s. I'm Reese Gardner. It is Bradley Wingard alongside me in the commentary box once again, as per usual. Brad, we're pretty hyped about this one. Atlanta, we talked about it last week at Richmond. You know, the tyres certainly going to be an issue here, thanks to that very rough surface.
Yeah, good evening, Reese. That's exactly right. This is kind of a really weird blend between Chicagoland issues and Las Vegas speeds, because it is a very, very fast circuit. But like you said, those old surfaces wreak havoc on the tires. So that balance is going to be crucial to winning this race, and I think it's going to catch a lot of drivers out.
Yeah, exactly right. We got a pit speed of 50 miles per hour and very high banked turns, 24 degrees. So you can carry a great deal of speed through the turns here at this 1.5 mile speedway. And certainly a lot to think about in terms of the championship as well. We don't have a graphic for you, but we can tell you that Cameron Dance, with a fantastic win last time out at Richmond, able to take the championship lead from Job Stewart, who tried to go with no pit stops throughout the race and ended up running out of fuel just a couple of laps from the end. So Job Stewart is going to be wanting to keep himself in that fight. He trails Cameron Dance by 23 points as we go into this round, and as you can see, we've got one more round at Motegi, going back to the road course for the Grand Prix layout before we take a week's break, and then we're back for the final 2 rounds of this 8-round championship. It's certainly been a fun one, hasn't it?
It definitely has, and I think the results really show that, with a variety of winners winning, because we haven't had just Cameron Dance or Job Stewart or Thomas Hinz, who I thought might be in contention as well, just kind of walking away with the championship. 23 points is not much, 50 for a win. So Cam does have half a win's advantage at the moment, but like we saw last week, that can flip on its head in a moment's notice.
It can indeed, and the Altus Esports drivers of Bo Albert and Sam Blacklock, Sam is 3rd in the championship, Bo 5th. They're going to be keeping that in mind as we check out the strategy for tonight. Approximately 50 laps to a tank of fuel, and you only get 2 spare sets of tyres, so you get 3 total, including the set you start on. With the high speeds here, you're certainly going to be using a lot of fuel around this oval, and depending on how the racing goes, if there aren't that many cautions, we might be seeing green flag pit stops. But if it ends up being a caution fest, you're probably going to be seeing drivers take a gamble on only completing the race on the single tank of fuel, because 75 laps and 50 to a tank, it doesn't take much to save that amount of fuel if there's 4, maybe 5 cautions.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And because, like we saw at Vegas, overtaking with the draft could be quite difficult. So drivers might be able to use that to their advantage as well and try and just sit there and maintain their position and save fuel at, 75-80% throttle, which is going to get them in that position, but then they're going to save all of that fuel as well. So it's going to be a really interesting race to see if it does go green, and if it does, who can make their fuel last a bit longer by managing that draft and not going 100% of like attack mode all race.
Well, one of the drop bear cars there, certainly taking the term pit party literally, is the 777 of Tom Wilkinson, who set a time in the qualifying session good enough for 20th on the grid. We will go through the grid when we jump into the race session, because there's still a bit to talk about here in terms of the title fight. Those Altus Esports drivers of Sam Blacklock and Bo Albert, I briefly touched on them earlier. They had great potential at Richmond. Sam Blacklock taking a win earlier this season, but missing out at Richmond, and Bo Albert getting spun out in an incident. So it's really awesome to see that they've managed to hold on to such high spots in the standings, but they'll be absolutely gunning for it here at Atlanta, and they'll be trying their best to keep themselves in that fight. Currently, Sam Blacklock, well, he's managed to qualify 5th, and unfortunately, it doesn't seem Bo Albert is here tonight, and I can somewhat understand that. He's had a bit of a rough run recently in a couple of the other series that we broadcast here on SimSpeed TV, but hopefully Bo will be back for the next round at Motegi. For now, though, check out some onboard views here. We're on board with Zach Mitchell in car number 54, and it's immense, the banking here at Atlanta, but it's also an incredibly wide circuit, which really lends itself well to side-by-side.
Yeah, it definitely does. It's very similar to, I'm going to make a lot of comparisons tonight between this and Vegas that we went to a couple of weeks ago, because you can run multiple lines. We saw that in, I think it was NIS last year when they gave this track a minor update, and it made especially turn 1 and turn 2 a little bit easier. Still difficult as hell to get around, but it's a little bit easier, especially on that second and third line. You can really hang it around the outside without dropping too much time. So it's going to be really interesting come race, and as we get into that, second or third lap, when the cars are really up to speed and drafts really start to take effect, where drivers decide to place their chess pieces through those corners.
Yeah, it is high-speed chess, is oval racing. As we've seen throughout the oval rounds this season, it's been nothing but ovals since round 2 at Gateway. Only 3 road courses on the schedule. Road America started off the season. As I said, we'll be going to Motegi next week, and then Watkins Glen will be the final round in a month's time. The drivers have been working incredibly hard around here, haven't they? And demonstrating the lower line here. One of the things that always gets me about oval racing is the tyre preservation game, and as we've mentioned, it's going to be huge here at Atlanta. Very rough surface that's very tough on the tyres. If you're going to try and make a move on someone, I think often your best chance at a move would be around the outside around here, because you'll be working the tyres a little bit less hard around the outside. You'll be able to keep them cool and keep your pace up. We're on the Zoom feed as well tonight. Up in the top left is Sebastian Flock. Top middle is Sam Blacklock. We got Zach Mitchell top right. Daniel Yeaman on the middle row left, our one of our series administrators at Aussie Online Gaming. Daniel Stevens right in the middle, and he's put on a great qualifying performance. He's going to be starting second. We got Tyson Broad there as well on the right side, and bottom row is Cameron Dance and Matthew Bowler, who it seems has his room lit up this time. We've become a bit used to seeing Mr. Bowler ensconced in darkness, but not this time.
doing my best not to make a disturbed joke, but I'll make that the joke, is the mention of it. But good to see everyone tuning in to Zoom. It's really interesting seeing their concentration fakes and their shenanigans before the race and during safety cars. So we thank those guys for participating, but I reckon it's just about grid time.
Just about indeed. There's Barney waving the checkered flag. The 5-minute warm-up comes to a close. Drivers will have hoped that they complete their preparations, because now this is how they're going to line up. It's Cameron Dance who's taken pole position, only driver to get into the 24-second bracket, with Daniel Stevens starting alongside him on row 1. Lachlan Capel and Job Stewart, second in the championship, are going to line up on row 2. Then we've got the Altus Esports pair of Sam Blacklock and Matt Danson on 5th and 6th, and Matt Danson, a bit of an oval specialist, so expecting interesting things from him tonight. Chris Weitzel is going to start alongside Matt Bowler on row 4, and the top 10 will be rounded out by Corey McFarlane and Mitchell McLeod, who had a pretty good result last round at Richmond Raceway, and Ben Johnson and Brady Carr will line up 11th and 12th.
Michael Whiting and Zach Mitchell will take out row 7 in front of Nathan Gardner and Tyson Broad on row 8, Jamie Dyke and Sebastian Flock on row 9, with Bailey Fruit and Tom Wilkinson rounding out the top 20, Blake Delaney and Daniel Yeaman starting from row 11, Stephen Grimmer and Blair Bowler starting row 12, with Scott Rankin last to qualify, and Thomas Hinz, who I haven't actually seen on track, but he is there, so no qualifying time for Thomas Hinz, but he's going to start right at the back and see how far up he can go.
And the field pulls away now behind the pace car. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Thomas Hinz not qualifying. He did set a time in practice, though, and it was in the low 25s, which I think would otherwise have been good enough for about 22nd on the grid, maybe 24th. There's a lot of drivers out of position here in this qualifying session. The likes of Daniel Yeaman, Blake Delaney, we usually see them starting a bit further up towards the top 10, but not so here. And Sebastian Flock and Bailey Frid, the Pursuit Sim Racing pair, starting 18th and 19th. They've got quite a bit of work to do as well.
Yeah, they definitely do. It's going to be very interesting to see, because there is going to be a lot of draft around here, but with a lot of draft comes a lot of dirty air, and a lot of guys complaining about that in the practice session beforehand. So managing that's going to be really interesting, and if we get a show like we've had the last couple of weeks, this is going to be awesome.
So gearing up for 75 laps of racing at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Those Altus cars looking resplendent as usual. You can definitely stand out. Cameron Dance has decided to go early. The green flag flies, and he's got a major run on the rest of the field. Daniel Stevens did not line up the start as well. He's been swallowed up by everyone else, and he's fallen back down to 5th as they go through turns 1 and 2 for the first time. Here comes Sam Blacklock, meanwhile, trying to line up a move on Lachlan Capel to take 2nd, and he's got Job Stewart right in his toe as down to the bottom there. Going Chris Weitzel, he makes contact with Daniel Stevens, understeer in the first turn. Stevens with major damage. It looks like we might stay green for now, but Stevens is going to be limping around the track, and here we go. That is going to be a caution, and no surprise there.
I was going to say, I swear I saw someone else in the wall, but I didn't catch.
Yeah, actually, it was Nathan Gardner. Nathan Gardner. He went for an enormous spin. Actually, he for some reason got some big oversteer on in the tri-oval, and ended up spinning back up onto the circuit. So I think it was Nathan Gardner who brought the caution. That was at the very start, actually. Interesting to see. Not too sure. That's the contact between Weitzel and Stevens. I'm not too sure what happened to Weitzel there. Might have hit a bump wrong. And Nathan Gardner stopped on the circuit here, struggling to get going as the field went by. Goodness me. That was
very lucky. Sorry.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Up to the fence, because otherwise that was going to be a massive accident with that mid-pack coming through on that second line. But I can understand losing it at the start. These cars have a lot of horsepower, and you're not exactly traveling fast when that start goes. So very easy to spin, especially with those two kinks at what I would call turn 4 and turn 1. But the what oval there. It's that really weird little corner with a bit of wheel spin, and yeah, that'll send you into a spin quite easily.
Well, Daniel Stevens into the lane. We got Scott Rankin making his way into the pits as well from 24th position, but Daniel Stevens back out there now, and I would presume with his spare car, he would not have wanted to have used it this early, and it's a big shame for Daniel, not only starting on the front row, but getting taken out through no fault of his own. Just had Chris Weitzel there on his inside, and Weitzel just lost all front grip in the turn, and Daniel Stevens, he could do nothing.
Yeah, it's what I was alluding to before the show. The aero wash around here is quite significant, especially when you add that really awful old surface as well. So, not the first, and well, is the first, but not the only time I expect to see that to happen. But for everyone's sake, I hope that I'm wrong. But it's this is the track for it, unfortunately. But it also provides some really good racing. So, Dan Stevens is down, but he's not out yet. So, have to wait and see what happens.
Yeah, there is great potential for good racing around here. Let's hope that the next green flag period is long enough that we get some of that, because it would be a real shame to only have green flag runs lasting 2 or 3 laps around here without the drivers getting a proper chance to show what they can do. Cameron Dance, well, for him, he absolutely nailed the first start, and it's going to be up to Sam Blacklock to try and stay with him when the lights eventually go out on the iRacing pace car. As you just saw, they are still flashing, so we are going to have at least one more lap under caution once these guys cross the line next. But that is definitely an interesting sight to see in your mirrors with an Altus Esports car right on your tail. Not to mention Lachlan Capel up there as well. Capel doing very well here around Atlanta. But Sam Blacklock here, his focus is going to be on that TechSense Fitstyle car up ahead.
And these guys, as well as Job Stewart in 4th place, all looking to take that top spot for the championship just after the halfway mark as well. So these guys aren't going to do anything stupid, but they're also not going to just sit around and twiddle their thumbs either. If the opportunity is there, I expect very limited hesitation. Just a little bit, but a bit of cautious optimism is probably the best way to describe it.
It's definitely going to have to be caution on the throttle if Nathan Gardner's spin is anything to go by. Cameron Dance seems completely unbothered out in front. Getting a little bit more practice in for his air guitar. But now he will have to start focusing because lights are off on the pace car. The drivers will form up once again, and it's going to be single file restarts here, as is customary in oval racing. A double file restart would certainly cause a bit more havoc, I would imagine.
Yeah, it works in NASCAR well enough because they have a bit of, bodywork to protect the wheels, and bumping and grinding's not too much of an issue. These guys, though, once is enough at the start of the race. At this point, everyone's like, okay, come on, let's go. We're supposed to be racing. So double file, I feel like, is more dangerous than it's worth for open wheel cars.
Yeah, I'm certainly in agreement with you there, and so is everyone in the real life racing world. So, pace car in. When does Cameron Dance decide to go? At pit entry, pretty much. Sam Blacklock has managed to stay with him very nicely. We're green again to start lap 7 of 75. And let's see what Blacklock can do here to try and round up Cameron Dance in the draft. Very smooth coming through the turns, but Blacklock backing off slightly. He doesn't want to make the move just yet. Doesn't want to burn up his tyres either, because they're still going to have to think about that too. They only get 3 sets of tyres to use throughout a race. That is including the set they start on. Job Stewart still in 4th place behind Lachlan Capel. Neither of these guys have gained or lost positions. Same for Matthew Bowler down in 8th. But Mitchell McLeod starting to make moves through the field. My goodness, that is a huge spin. The car has spun back onto the track. Who is that? It's Chris Weitzel once more.
Yeah, that was really strange. I just decided to flick to someone in the mid pack and just coming out of turn two. This is what we were saying. It's so early in the race already, but that transition up out of the corner and the back end just, we'll see it right here, but back end just decides today's not the day.
Yeah, that was an ever so slight slide there, but at those speeds, it's so hard to recover. Poor Chris Weitzel, he would have felt that rear end going, trying his best to counter steer into it, but the rear end would just have gone, no thank you. Yeah, you see how, oh my goodness, that is a huge hit. And he was just a passenger from that point on. No choice but to be spun up onto the racetrack once again. So we don't even get a single lap in on that restart. And the field gets reset once more. Wondering if anyone's going to try and go for the pits this time round. I feel like it's still a bit too early in the race to think about that.
Yeah, we need to get to lap 25 to get home on a tank of fuel, if my memory serves me correct, which 9 out of 10 times it doesn't. But yeah, still, even under caution, you don't really want to gamble an extra 15 laps on fuel. We saw what happened last week with Job Stewart. It nearly worked for him, but nearly doesn't with new races. So not quite in that gamble pit window yet. If we get another caution and get to lap 19, then maybe. But even that's a bit of a stretch.
So it's just a reset here for our field as coming out of the pits just behind the rest of our field. There is Nathan Gardner and Stephen Grimmer also out of the lane as well. Actually, it seems it might have been I'm not too sure. No, it wouldn't have been Blair Bowler. Might have been Scott Rankin potentially, or Nathan Gardner, who was coming out of the pits there. But everyone apart from Chris Weitzel is now still in the race. I get the feeling that might be day done for Chris Weitzel. He's been in the pits now for 2.5 minutes. Obviously very heavy damage. He would have already taken his spare car from that opening incident with Daniel Stevens. So he's going to be in there a while, and he'll certainly be hoping that he can get back out there and get himself some more points. A visit to the pits, meanwhile, for Daniel Stevens, and Scott Rankin also making his way through too. They've both taken their second stops, and it makes sense for Daniel Stevens, you know, all the way down in the field like he is. Apparently some good times here for Matt Bowler. He should be happy. He's still in the top 10 and has managed to survive the racing so far. But Daniel Stevens pitting like he has, that's going to give him an advantage towards the end when everyone else decides to take their pit stops. Stevens will have a little bit more in the tank, and he could potentially shorten his final stop. And it looks like Chris Weitzel is back out on track too, which is good to see.
I was going to say, I think a few other people are having a very similar train of thought. Corey McFarlane's just coming into the lane as well. I think we only have one lap under safety car to go, so thankfully,
Yeah.
that is. I mean, it won't be tight because Indy Car stops are quite quick, like 7 seconds for a full tank of fuel or 9 seconds with a full tank of fuel and tires. It's not much, so at this point of the race, the splash and dash is not going to take too much time. It'll, again, be at the back of the pack, but it's sort of like, you know, a 15th of a stop ahead of everyone else, which will save them a few tenths when they come in for their main stop later in the race.
Actually, it looks like that stop for Corey McFarlane is not related to fuel. I've just seen an in-sim chat message from him. He says, FFB dead. He's had a hardware failure. No force feedback for car 94. And it looks like he's pulled out. So that's a big shame to see for Corey McFarlane. He was running quite well. But he won't get a chance to make good on what has been some really good pace from him shown throughout the season. Either way, we're gearing up for our second restart of the night In goes the pace car, and Cameron Dance, once again, going early just before the green flag, but Sam Blacklock has stayed with him. Blacklock is right on it when it comes to executing these restarts. And into turn 1 and 2 they go. Got to be careful on the exit here. Man, that is some good pace from Blacklock, rounding up Dance in a straight line. But as you see, he lifts off. He doesn't want to be the one to make the move. And being the leader, quite often a big disadvantage. There's not much of a chance to fuel save, not much of a chance to save your tyres. You're just going to try to be flat out all the way. Side by side, further back in the pack, meanwhile, that's Daniel Yeaman and Sebastian Flock making it 2x2 across the line.
Ooh.
And oh, goodness me, Sebastian Flock round the outside of Daniel Yeaman. It was a little bit of an issue there for car 85. He's going to have to defend now from Bailey Frid, and oh my goodness, that is a car off into the wall. That's Tyson Broad with major damage. He's lost his right front wheel. What on earth has gone on for him there? Again, it looks like it's self-inflicted. He just got a bit of understeer into the wall and ended up clobbering it again. He's managed to go off the racetrack. We stay green, and Broad will get that damage repaired. But the racing continues here up at the front. Oh no, there we go. Caution is out, and I'm not too sure what that's for. It looks like a drop bear car. Tom Wilkinson with major damage on the back stretch, and he has done almost the same thing that Chris Weitzel did. Actually, a combination of what happened to Chris Weitzel and Tyson Broad. You'll see it here coming out of turns 1 and 2. And the dirty air, once again, Brad, this is what it does. He just moves up the racetrack, taking the racing line. Actually, this is going to take another half a lap. But you'll see him get some understeer on and just tap the wall coming out of turns 1 and 2 here. And from that point, the car is hit into a slide, and all he can do is hold on.
Yeah, it's so easy to do. That's what I was talking about earlier, and I was going to comment that with Sam Blacklock as well, just sitting behind to save the fuel and try not to understeer with the aero wash. But these cars are in their low aero configuration, but at the speeds they're moving, that means diddly squat. This is the replay of Tyson Broad. Very, very similar incident, just coming through turn 2 and whacks the wall twice for good measure, and everyone scatters to the inside. And it's so easy to do, especially in that mid pack when you got, half a dozen cars or more in front of you.
Well, this is what it looked like on board. You saw Broad trying to put more steering input into it to try and save it, but once the fronts have lost that grip, turning the wheel more isn't going to do anything. So that is the right front gone then for Tyson Broad, and back on now because he's taken his spare car and he's back down in 22nd. Really good to see that there are so many cars still on the lead lap here. It looks like Tom Wilkinson has decided to perhaps call it a night. He's been in the pits for quite some time, probably getting the damage repaired manually to avoid taking his spare car. We still have 20 cars on the lead lap. Currently, the cars a lap down or more being Nathan Gardner, Tyson Broad, Wilkinson in the pits, Chris Weitzel and Stephen Grimmer. Corey McFarlane has not returned to the circuit, so I think that hardware failure might be terminal for his race.
Yeah, and people say that we don't have, proper tyre punctures or engine shutdown or any of that sort of stuff in sim racing, but I mean, we still have electronic hardware that fails all the time. Max Verstappen's brake pedal at Spa 24 Hours a couple of years ago comes to mind, and force feedback failures like Corey's had tonight's another one, and you can drive without force feedback. A lot of the oval NASCAR guys do it because it's easier for them or whatever, but when you've been running force feedback and then it suddenly disappears, it's an absolute nightmare to try and adjust to that mid-race.
Yeah, certainly. Well, we've had another visit to the pits for Scott Rankin and Daniel Stevens. Blake Delaney has also gone into the lane as well. So, typical to see further towards the back of the field, drivers electing to just take little splashes of fuel under safety car to try and preserve their race, so they can try and take advantage later on. So, lights should go off on the pace car this time round. We will wait and see, and they indeed do. So we will be going green again at the end of this lap. The field forming up again behind Cameron Dance. This is going to be a tough one, I think, if this pattern of cautions continue, because largely, apart from the incident between Daniel Stevens and Chris Weitzel, our spins have been self-inflicted. Just drivers struggling in the dirty air, losing grip, and then finding the wall.
Yeah, it's somewhat surprising that we've had so many so quickly, but also everyone at the start of the race bunched together. Tyres haven't started to play their part in spreading the field out yet. So it's also not too surprising, but it's having a bigger effect on the race than I thought it would at the same time. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I did also see that Daniel Stevens came into the pits again at the end of last lap. So he's on the back of the train again with a full tank of fuel, and he's really maximizing that really bizarre strategy.
Yes, currently leading the pit stop count, running at 5 stops as Cameron Dance prepares to go again. He does indeed. There's a little bit of a concertina behind them between Job Stewart and Lachlan Capel, but they've managed to get off to a good start. Capel, though, is under a big threat from Matt Danson as everyone crosses the line. And Blacklock, once again, right up to the back of Cameron Danson. He's going for the lead this time. Side by side down the back stretch goes Sam Blacklock as Matt Danson then goes for the move on Lachlan Capel. Up the inside, and Altus Esports will lead the way here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Capel, though, is fighting Blacklock's teammate Matt Danson here as they come across the line to start lap 21, and really squeezing him down to the bottom. You see Danson struggling to keep the grip up. That car is super twitchy. Remember, it's Fixed Indy Australia. Fixed car setups. Mitchell McLeod is making really good on his pace here. He is now up into 5th, trying his best round the outside of Matt Danson, who will be struggling in the dirty air. Mitchell McLeod not getting as much of it, being on the outside in the turns. But a really good run there for the Torque Inc. driver, up 5 positions. Daniel Yeaman just making his way past Bailey Frid back in the field. He is now up into 14th, but Bailey Frid's getting him back slightly. Goodness me, this battle is great. McLeod switching to the inside of Lachlan Capel here to go then for 4th place, and it looks like he just might get it. No, Mitchell McLeod, he gets the wheels spun and spins into the pit lane. That is huge. Thank goodness there aren't any actual pit crews out there, otherwise that would have been an absolute disaster. We stay green. He is well off the racetrack. Mitchell McLeod had a red hot go of it, but it did not work out. Meanwhile, in the back of the field, or back in the field rather, fighting very hard, all of these drivers. Matt Danson has still got his hands full with Lachlan Capel, and Bailey Frid and Daniel Yeaman have not left each other alone. They got the 2 Fishy cars of Michael Whiting and Jamie Dyke up ahead of them, and Fishy had a really good result last round at Richmond. They'll be hoping for more here at Atlanta. But now we're starting to get some actual good racing on here. Cameron Dance going very high here in turns 3 and 4, trying to preserve those tyres, I think, because now he knows he has to get that lead back from Sam Blacklock, and they're going to have to look out for Job Stewart too, because the top 3 have broken away from the rest of the field. Oh, Stewart in the wall.
Yeah, that was just the most minute of touches for Job Stewart there, but it does a lot to unsettle the car, and bit of high running from Cam, maybe to get out of the dirty air. Actually, that was a much bigger hit than it looked for Job Stewart. My apologies. That was quite a whack, but trying to get out of that dirty air from Sam Blacklock, keep the car cool for Cam Dance and preserve those tyres. So that's what we love about tracks like this. A lot of people complain that they're just cookie cutter 1.5 mile blobs, but the multiple lines that you can run and being able to pin someone to the inside to hold your position that we saw. Oh, what's that caution for?
Blair Bowler, unfortunately, going for a big spin on the back stretch, and it looks like Stephen Grimmer might have been involved in that too. Oh yes, this is going to be an interesting replay for sure. Blair Bowler getting a bit of a slide on, and Stephen Grimmer attempted to avoid him to switch up to the high line, but then Grimmer started sliding himself. You'll see it here.
Yeah. Yeah, Blair Bowler definitely lost a bit of pace coming through the second half of turn 2 and came down for whatever reason, and that really just upset Stephen Grimmer, who had to go outside, and then the car snapped back on him. And I wouldn't really put any one driver at fault there. That was just really unfortunate timing for both of them. But I don't know. I don't know how I'd call that one other than a bit of really unfortunate luck and timing for both drivers.
Well, it's a good time for literally everyone to jump into the pit lane who hasn't pitted already. Daniel Stevens filtering through to the front of the field. He's still got plenty of fuel on that one, but Job Stewart, Sam Blacklock, Cam Dance, Matt Danson, all jumping into the lane, and it actually looks like Job has gotten an excellent pit stop there. Hasn't taken tyres, it seems. He's just put a little bit of fuel in the car. No, actually, getting a spare car would make sense there for Job Stewart, plus a bit of fuel. He did clobber the wall quite substantially, but Job has moved into second place overall behind Daniel Stevens. Actually, he's going very slow and letting these drivers back by. I'm not sure what's going on here for Job Stewart. Is he rubbing the wall? Speeding on pit exit, potentially. Not too sure what's going on there for Job, but he's falling to the back of the line. He picks up speed again. He must have gotten an end-of-line penalty, potentially. He does have the pit limiter on. It looks fine. Has he exited the... Has he blended back onto the racetrack too early, I wonder? A pretty sedate pit exit for him. And, oh yeah, there we go. Yep. Okay, well, that's a pretty slam dunk penalty there. You see that blue line across the road. Well, you've got to leave your re-entry onto the racetrack until after you cross that line. Job Stewart, I think, just having a slight brain fade moment and forgetting that.
Yeah, we saw it a few times in practice as well, and it caught a lot of drivers out with that really sharp transition at race speed from the pit lane exit to the racing circuit. But we see Dan Stevens on stream now. After his horror start to the race, all of his little micro pit stops that he's had under caution have catapulted him back up to the lead. So it works. It's very strange, but it does work, and he's back up there. He does have a couple of lap cars in front of him, which is going to be a bit of a hassle, but no doubt they'll try not to get in the way too much, or I think they get lap past. I can't remember what the deal is in Indy Car. I get them all confused.
Yeah, we do an awful lot of different types of racing here on SimSpeed TV, so it can be easy to forget which rules apply to which series. Lights are off on the pace car, and it does look like Chris Weitzel and Nathan Gardner will be let by the pace car here. There goes Weitzel, and Gardner should follow him. There he goes. So, back to business as usual up the front, but with a very different looking top five. They've got a lapped car in the midst of them too. You see the car behind Daniel Stevens there. The teal and white is Tyson Broad, who's down in 20th place. And Sam Blacklock, Cam Dance, Matt Danson, Lachlan Capel, the rest of our top five, going to have to try and make their way past him. So what does Broad do here on the restart?
I don't know.
He's in a tough position, isn't he? Right behind the race leader.
Because you don't want to be the guy that gets out of the way and causes a bottleneck because everyone's trying to use the draft, but you can't really run with speed. I think his best option is going to be to get to exit of turn 2, have a nice smooth exit off of turn 2, and come down to the inside as far as he can. That's probably his safest bet, but it's in his hands now. We're just going to have to wait and see.
Green flag once more, and Daniel Stevens will lead the field. Nice easy start, it seems, for all of our drivers. Tyson Broad really catching up to Daniel Stevens, and he's actually going to go past him here, try and get his lap back. Sam Blacklock is going to stick his nose up the inside, kisses the apron, understeers into Daniel Stevens, who gets a hit and then goes into Cameron Dance. Oh, man, the caution is out. Cameron Dance and Daniel Stevens with big damage from that, and I think that was largely caused by Tyson Broad trying to go for the lead there. Oh, man. Although I would have to place probably most of it on Sam Blacklock going up the inside of Daniel Stevens and kissing the apron like he did. That made him lose all front grip, and all he could do was go up into his fellow Kiwi. Here's how it happened. Tyson Broad trying to get his lap back. Sam Blacklock catches him right there, and oh, yeah. Just a little unsettled there down low, and Daniel Stevens sent up into the wall for the second time. Cameron Dance could do nothing. He was collected by all of that. So that could be potentially huge for the championship.
Yeah, Cam's already in the pits getting his car repaired, and well, it's on the toe jack, I should say, seeing he's past pit entry but at the end of that incident, and innocent bystander, both of them, Stevens and Cam Dance. And yeah, I understand Sam's intentions there. He had a right to do the move that he did, but I think, I don't know, just a bit of misjudgment put him a little bit too low. And yeah, that transition is so sharp, and I don't know, you can try and lift as much as you can, and he did, but the car only turns so much under load like that.
Yeah, it does. I don't want it to sound like I'm full on blaming Sam Blacklock for the incident, but yeah, you do have a very good point, Brad. The fact that it was just an ever so slight misjudgment, and of course Daniel Stevens was going on the racing line as well, so Blacklock got squeezed a little coming into turn 3, and that would have played a part in him kissing the apron. But I suppose this has worked out okay for Altus Esports. They now run 1 and 2, as you can see. Matt Danson right there with his teammate Sam Blacklock. And through all of this, Lachlan Capel in the car behind, number 18. He has been very quiet in terms of racing action, but the Pulse Racing team driver will certainly be happy with how things have gone. He maintains 3rd place, and Benjamin Johnson and Brady Carr behind him up 7 positions each, which is awesome to see for those guys. Definitely winning out from that. So far, the driver that has gained the most positions in the field is Thomas Hinz. Remember, he started dead last. He's now up to 11th.
Yeah, and again, something I'm not exactly surprised by. He did very similar last week as well. Was that the week before? I don't remember. But he is very good at traffic management and picking his opportunities on ovals. So I am not really surprised by that. Cam Dance is back out, 2 laps down, we just saw on screen, which is not going to be ideal for his championship at all. That's what we were talking about, how close this championship and how close the points are every round, how one result like this can just flip the championship on its head. The race is far from over though. We're just eclipsing halfway soon, and he didn't take his fast repair because he was there for quite a while, so more cautions are probably on the table, and he will still have a chance to catch up, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully for Dance. But one big element in his battle with Job Stewart is Job in car 35, despite that end-of-line penalty he had to serve for blending onto the racetrack too soon under the last caution. He's on the lead lap and in 16th place, and that will allow him potentially to vault his way up through the field, put even more of a gap between himself and Cameron Dance, his championship rival. So there's plenty to think about here as we come up to the halfway point of round 5 of Fixed Indy Australia. And we're really starting to get into the tail end of the championship, where mistakes like that and incidents like we've seen are worth even more. The lights are off on the pace car. It's going to be an Altus Esports 1-2 coming across the line here. question is, when does Sam Blacklock decide to go? He and Matt Danson will undoubtedly be coordinating the start here to try and get as good a run as possible on Lachlan Capel and the drivers behind. And away they go. The Altus cars in lockstep, 1 and 2. But it looks like Lachlan Capel has managed to stick with them a little bit as they go through turns 1 and 2. Already some side-by-side action in the field. That's Bailey Frid on the inside of Michael Whiting in the Fishy Motorsports car. And oh, there we go. Not enough of a run to make the move on the inside into turn 3. Whiting protecting 9th position. But now Thomas Hinz is right on the back of these two. He's going to try and go up the inside of Bailey Frid coming into turns 1 and 2. Frid gives him the room, sticks middle of the road. Little bit of understeer for Michael Whiting. He lost momentum, had to back off as Jamie Dyke, his teammate, was battling with Daniel Yeaman just up ahead. But these 3-car battles, they don't always end in a happy way. Bailey Frid, though, round the outside, keeping that momentum up, and with these slightly cooler tyres, not working them as hard, running a bit higher up the racetrack, he's going to snatch that 9th place away.
Yeah, this mid-pack is absolutely popping off as it usually does, and not much room to work with between Thomas Hinz and Michael Whiting. Blake Delaney now looking to make a move on his teammate coming out of turn 4. Sorry, computer deciding to have a Fritz moment as I'm cooling, but got to keep me on my toes somehow. I just saw Blair Bowler had to serve a black flag penalty for something earlier on. He's been waiting for 3 cautions to serve it. He's just coming out of the pits now as well, so it's going to put him in a really awkward position. Hopefully he'll be able to slot in behind Chris Witzel and Cam Dancer coming through now, because that's a very busy part of the track where all of these guys are.
That it is, and Job Stewart, who we've been riding on board with, he's wasting no time making up places. There he goes past Michael Whiting, and then they've got Scott Rankin up there with them as well. Rankin, one of the drivers to take those very short splashing pit stops under caution early on, and Thomas Hinz still having a bit of trouble trying to get past Bailey Frid here. It's giving a good advantage to Scott Rankin just behind. It seems once 2 cars come together in a battle, the aero wash becomes huge. Hinz is going to switch to the outside here, try his best to snatch some kind of draft off Jamie Dyke coming across the line. And there be Bailey Frid, obscured by the mirror, but Hinz will get him here, potentially around the outside. No, Frid moving up the circuit. He's going to spin off. Thomas Hinz has to check up, and he's been collected from behind. Both of the cars off the circuit, but we stay green. They haven't come back onto the racetrack. However, Thomas Hinz missing his rear wing now, and Bailey Frid's car is in horrible shape.
Yeah, that was... Oh, Job Stewart as well. That looked quite fast on pit entry to add insult to misery. I don't know if it was speeding in pit lanes, but it looked close. Just innocent bystander in all of that. He was going quite significantly fast over the pit lane line, so we'll see what comes from that. Hopefully nothing much for his championship's sake, but that's the nature of these ovals. We're lucky to still be running green because there are multiple lines, but that means drivers move around more, and we get incidents like that because there's only so much room. We nearly had another one as well between Blake Delaney and Michael Whiting again. And God, I don't know where to look.
Yeah, well, we're definitely looking at the battle for 7th and 8th here. Matt Bowler stuck on the inside now as Jamie Dyke trying to round him up. And they've still got Scott Rankin just behind them looking to take advantage. He's got a massive draft, has Rankin, and he's going to try and go around the outside of Bowler here. Matthew boxed in. He cannot move up the track and look after his tyres a little more, and you see the effect of it there. Compromised exit. Those tyres will be boiling hot now, and he'll be losing a great deal of pace. But Jamie Dyke, with no one in front of him for at least a couple seconds, will now only have Scott Rankin to think about. Rankin now going to the inside, coming into turns 2 and 3. They almost bang wheels on the way in, but giving each other the requisite room. Dyke with a little better run there off the banking, coming onto the quad oval section and dipping below Scott Rankin, who then switches high. It's all about preserving the tyres from here on out. The Altus pair up front, they are not thinking about any of this at all. They're just hitting their marks. Sam Blacklock and Matt Danson still leading the way, and it's a good gap between the two of them. Currently running in third is still Lachlan Capel, but this battle here between Jamie Dyke and Scott Rankin continues. Rankin with a great run of momentum around the outside of 1 and 2 will dip through into turns 3 and 4, and Jamie Dyke losing a good deal of momentum will have to slot in behind, potentially get him back here. Might they be working together in the draft to try and gain on Brady Carr up ahead?
I mean, it's possible, because the inside gives you the speed through the corner, but the run from that outside line is just ridiculous, and it doesn't matter anymore because we have a caution.
Okay, and it looks like that was that Tom Wilkinson? Bailey Fred, no, yeah, Bailey Fred. Oh dear, he's had another problem here on the inside. Let's have a look at what happens. He just loses it by himself. Tried his best to recover it, but the car was already all out of sorts. Oh dear. Is that Thomas Hinz? Okay, yeah, we're going back to the replay from earlier, this initial incident between Thomas Hinz and Bailey Fred. So Hinz trying around the outside of Fred, but Fred just gets a little bit of understeer on from the fishy car up ahead, disturbing the airflow, and Hinz got collected from behind by Job Stewart, so that explains why Stewart had the damage he did.
Yeah, that's the issue with these cars is Job Stewart, who we ride on board with now, he's watching this. Like, you always have to watch, you know, a bit far up the road, and he's, again, just a passenger. He's got all of his input that he can, and there's no room on the outside. He's turning to the inside as much as he can, and there's nothing he can do. Thankfully, he didn't hit the wall or anything, so he only had a bit of damage to fix and had that momentum down the back straight, but even still, less than ideal.
Well, Nathan Gardner jumping into the pit lane there for the second time, and he didn't have the best of starts, did Nathan Gardner, spinning on the initial race start, but he's managed to keep himself on the lead lap, currently in 15th, last car on the lead lap, but certainly he's having a bit better luck as the race goes on. Goodness me, this is quite the mixed up field, isn't it? We haven't seen the likes of this since I don't even know when. We've had, you know, our typical runners up the front of the field like Cameron Dance and Job Stewart, Thomas Hinz, etc. But they have just had the worst luck here tonight. Meanwhile, Altus Esports have survived the majority of it, and they are in the box seat here to gain massive points in the drivers' standings.
Yeah, they really are. Sam, like we said, not too far away from this championship fight that heats up every single week. He's 62 points behind Cam Dance, 39 behind Job Stewart. And with those guys down in 17th and 20th, respectively, that's a big point swing in Sam Blacklock's favour. And having Matt Danson riding shotgun for him, rear gunner, so to speak, it's just helping. They pulled a massive lead before that last caution. Even Sam over Matt was 1.6 seconds or something before the caution came out, and then it was another 4 or 5 seconds back to Lachlan Capel from Danson. So these guys are absolutely on it tonight, and it's great to see Sam back in form, because like Bo, his teammate, they kind of went through a little bit of a racing slump for a little while, and seeing them, well, Sam particularly, back on form is always good to see. Touch wood.
Indeed. I think same can be said for Daniel Yeaman on screen on your right-hand side. He is up 17 places now in the top 5, and he's managed to negotiate these incidents and, I guess, stay away from them largely. That's been the main thing. Everyone, just a picture of calmness here under the caution. Lights off on the pace car. We will go green, but Thomas Hinz now is the lapped car, splitting our leader from everyone else behind him. Now, we saw Matthew Bowler earlier. Sorry, Tyson Broad. My apologies. We saw Tyson Broad earlier try his best to get his lap back right away on the restart. I don't know if Thomas Hinz will try and do the same here. He's right in the midst between this top 2 Altus duo. So it remains to be seen exactly what's going to go on here in this green flag period. We'll be coming up on 22 laps to go when they cross the line. Not much of this race left to run. And drivers have been dropping like flies. Who will be the next casualty? We're not too sure. Sam Blacklock goes. Thomas Hinz, a little bit delayed on the throttle application. And Matt Danson will move to his outside as we are green once more.
Yeah, very good of Matt to move outside as early as he did. That's seemingly the line that you want today, and he's right in the draft already. Thomas Hinz is just lifting off, which is probably the best thing to do. You don't want to slam the brakes, but you want to get out of the way as quickly as you can. And now auto restored. Drop bear. I think that's Zach Mitchell. Or was that Daniel Yeaman? I don't know. In the midst of it. But people and Ben Johnson missed last week, so trying to make up for it. He's got a massive run out of turn 1, and that was close.
Goodness me, was it ever. Lachlan Capel, though, on the outside, definitely with the advantage, and he will protect third, but that's allowed all the drivers behind to close up. Daniel Yeaman now is going to have a big old run here at a potential podium position. Sticking high, and you see the difference in pace as they go past the apex of the corner. Benjamin Johnson has to give him room here on the outside, and he'll potentially get squeezed a little down to the inside. Good amount of room given by both cars, but Daniel Yeaman certainly with the superior pace, running a little higher. Now he lines up Lachlan Capel, and well, Yeaman had to back off just a little bit into turns 1 and 2, but he'll get the momentum round the outside and potentially clear Capel before they get to 3 and 4. Looks like he just might. He's going to stick to the outside, but he'll have the pace advantage when they exit the turn, and that is Daniel Yeaman now up into the top 3. Excellent run here on this restart.
Yeah, qualifying really means nothing around a track like this, and he continues to run that middle line as well, so that really shows how quick. Oh, that was a bit of a wall touch from Capel on exit. That's really ruined his run. Looking to the inside is Ben Johnson. Probably the smarter idea this time round, because Capel was still up high, and he's got that draft from who was that in front? I missed who that was. Oh, Rankin, yeah. His timing's all over the place. But Rankin in 4th, started 25th, is our biggest mover. Dan Yeaman up 19, Scott Rankin up 21. So, yeah, qualifying around a track like this does mean kind of diddly squat, but it's not done yet in this mid-pack either.
Yeah, Capel's just dropping positions now after his wall hit and a little bit of oversteer, it looked like, on the entry into turn 1. He's got to be careful here. Getting rounded up by the fishy car of Jamie Dyke. A little bit of a dart to the inside for the 080. And I think from now on, Capel's priority number 1 is just to survive. Unfortunately, falling out of the top 3. Quite fun racing here between Fishy and, oh dear, there's a car in the wall. Nathan Gardner, he's gotten into the wall in the quad oval and very slow on track. It seems that Sebastian Flock also go. Oh my goodness, what on earth was that? Chris Weitzel trying his best to negotiate these drivers, but he was just going too fast. And there is the caution. Looked like actually Sebastian Flock was down to the inside, and Weitzel, he was going for the inside, might have gotten some faint contact from Flock, which sent him up into Gardner. Here's what happened to Flock.
Ooh. No, Flock's incident precedes all of that. That was completely self-inflicted.
Okay, we'll find out exactly what went on here. Oh, little tap of the wall, and all he could do was go straight. Nathan Gardner then understeers into the wall. Oh dear, that's what happened to Nathan Gardner. Oversteer off of turns 3 and 4, and then across the grass in the quad oval.
That was... I swear there was a third car involved in that as well, but I'm not sure if that was Flock or if that was someone else, because...
Oh, hello. This is interesting. We've got Blacklock, Yeaman, Capel and Mitchell in the lane. Blake Delaney joining them. I think Sam Blacklock might not have enough fuel to get to the end from here. He has been in that lead spot for a while. No benefit of draft, so he would have been using a lot more fuel than his rivals. And it is only a splash and dash there for the Altus Esports 215. He rejoins in 9th place. Daniel Yeaman rejoining in 10th. But it's Matt Danson now who's in the lead here. Scott Rankin and Benjamin Johnson will complete your top 3.
Will be interesting to see how Sam goes on those nice sticky new tyres as well, which I'm assuming at this point in the race, if you're going to be in the lane, you might as well take tyres to try and get some time back. And going back and watching that incident, there was another car involved. Chris Weitzel had to avoid Seb Flock coming down the track, and then was on the bottom and had to avoid Nathan Gardner coming down the track as well. And as he went up to avoid, Nathan Gardner came up to avoid and pushed Chris Weitzel on the wall again. So there was more to that incident than we saw, and Chris Weitzel unfortunately involved in another incident tonight.
Yes. Well, we're back to green flag racing, and only 11 laps to go as the racing starts to get even hotter in this midfield. Cameron Dance back up onto the lead lap and into 14th place. He's going to try and gain as many positions as possible. Job Stewart is behind him on track in 17th and trying his best to work his way through here. Tyson Broad up ahead with Matthew Bowler as well. Goodness me, what close fighting it is with 10 laps to go now. And there goes Scott Rankin trying to go for the lead here on Matt Danson, and he manages to take it coming into turns 3 and 4. Danson cannot respond around the outside. Scott Rankin could pull a surprise victory here, but Danson is going to try and fight him back here. Danson, one of the top oval drivers in Oz NZ, as the caution is back out. There's been another incident.
Yeah, that was Sam Blacklock and Job Stewart again. Sam on his fresh tyres was absolutely charging through the field. Coming into turn 3, we'll get the replay of it now because that was a huge incident. So Job Stewart, all is calm for now, but Sam Blacklock behind is on an absolute charge. You can see him back a screen. Matt Bowler in front of Job Stewart in his nice gold pursuit car. Sam with all the grip, all the speed, comes round the outside, gets blocked by Bowler. And Job I thought there was contact, but no, Job just gets a bit of oversteer out of turn 4, which we've seen time and time again, and lucky to miss everyone. And then there was a drop bear car spinning off in the distance as well. So it was a very, very weird incident.
Yeah, very odd indeed. Looked like Job with Sam Blacklock to his outside. Oh dear. Oh, okay, that's what happened to the drop bear car. Trying to avoid the spinning Stewart was Zach Mitchell. He avoided getting back up onto the racetrack, but of course Job Stewart was a passenger and would have come to a stop on the racetrack. But this is crucial here for Scott Rankin, managing to grab the lead from Matt Danson in that short green flag period. Now the pressure is all going to be on him. Danson, with, I would presume, only 4 laps to go, potentially, when they go green next, will try and waste no time getting that lead back. Benjamin Johnson also has victory in his sights too.
Yeah, this is anyone's to win now, and Brady Carr as well could easily surprise everyone and either grab that podium or even grab the win. But Matt Danson, I think, is in a really good position at the moment because he is going to have the draft and he is going to be able to use that for that outside lane. And if he can get around the outside of turn 2, coming down into turn 3 or even turn 4 on the penultimate lap, then it's going to be really difficult for Scott Rankin to come back. So making that pass at the prime time is going to decide this race. Too early, you'll lose it. Too late, and you won't have enough time to complete the pass. So it's a very, very fine window for Danson to make that move and make it stick.
Well, this will be the first time the Indy Autosport number 49 is up this far in the field. Certainly a recognisable livery there for Scott Rankin. But news on Job Stewart. He's retired. He is out of the car, out of the server. So that's going to be a big points loss, I believe, for Job Stewart. Not too sure if there's a minimum distance requirement to get points in this series. I presume there is, but either way, Job Stewart is going to be bleeding points. I guess he'll be counting his lucky stars that Cameron Dance is still classified a lap down on everyone else. He's actually the leader of the cars a lap down or more.
Yeah, still putting that gap out is Cam Dance, but like you say, nothing massively significant. He is in 14th place right now, so there's still points. Like, we take every point that we can get, but yeah, I think that is the one solace for Job Stewart right now. Is it's not as bad as it could be. So I'm just going to call it a night there and try and come back next week and recover some more.
Oh dear, what an eventful night it has been. But Scott Rankin, who we didn't even consider as a fighter for a win, let alone a top 10 at the start of tonight. Remember, he pitted under the first caution along with Daniel Stevens, and he's perfectly executed the rest of his race as the number 49, working his way up to the lead, and now in that crucial spot. Lights are off on the pace car, and we will be going green, but he's going to be under so much pressure from the oval specialist, Altus Esports' Matt Danson. Can't wait to see where these guys stack up. Oh no, Rankin! He spun under caution. What on earth happened there? Ah, he was revving high. He was actually clutching and revving the engine, I think, to get some temperature for the restart, but then he re-engaged the clutch a bit too soon, I think. You'll hear him here. We're not going green. We've extended the caution, but listen to his engine all the way up, and then, oh man. What do you say to that?
I don't know. How can you... I would probably just click the Alt F4 and probably not sim race for a couple of months after that, because I don't know what Rankin's not integrity, his backbone is like, but I know mine's not strong enough to endure embarrassment like that. But now I think I can nearly say that I've seen it all in sim racing, because that's probably one of the last things I expected to happen from a leader with 5 laps to go under caution.
Oh, it's a big shame there for Scott Rankin. He did still have a fast repair in hand, I think. Either that or he's just gotten the nose cone repaired in the pits, and he will re-enter now in 13th place overall, but at the very back of the pack. So we got an extra lap here under safety car. Lights are still off. And it's going to be Matt Danson who leads the way then. Benjamin Johnson, Brady Carr, Jamie Dyke, and Tyson Broad complete your top 5 as we come round to 3 laps to go here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Danson puts the power down, and we are green once more. Sam Blacklock already trying to make some moves. He's going to try and round up Matthew Bowl around the outside here as Tyson Broad and Jamie Dyke battle over 4th and 5th. Broad getting a good run on the inside, but Dyke is going to get him back here, I would presume, around the outside. And Sam Blacklock is getting a great draft off Jamie Dyke as we speak. Switches to the inside. Look at that run from Blacklock on the fresher tyres, cleaning both of them up. 2 positions in 2 corners. Fantastic to see. And now he's going to try and challenge here to get up to 2nd and keep that Altus Esports 1-2.
We've still got 2 cars to do that. Brady Carr and Ben Johnson here fighting for their first podium of the season.
Oh!
Sam Blacklock, oh my god, you could have maybe fit an A4 piece of paper there, and that was about it, but completely psychs Ben Johnson out. White flag, last lap. Sam Blacklock in the tow of Brady Carr. Matt Danson's out to 0.8 of a second. Sam on those fresh tyres on Brady Carr. Getting the run, but he's just got nowhere to go and nearly contact again. Sam is absolutely leaving nothing left. This final corner, turn 4 is going to, well, not even turn 4, makes it to turn 3. It's an Altus 1-2, and what a final couple of laps that was from Sam Blacklock.
And super close for 3rd between Brady Carr and Benjamin Johnson. They were separated by 0.02 of a second or thereabouts at the line. But Matt Danson will take victory for Altus Esports. Certainly a fantastic result for the team there, keeping that 1-2 finish. Sam Blacklock, I think, will be slightly disappointed that he wasn't able to get up to that 1st position in time and not get the maximum points available to him, but I reckon both Altus guys are going to be super happy with this. Matt Danson back to winning ways on ovals in Indy Car. Fantastic. Well, he's going to start his victory donuts, and we'll go through our race results then. The 1-2 that Altus Esports needed. There's a few bumps there on the grass and the infield, it seems. Danson and Blacklock separated by a second at the line. Tyson Broad made a huge run to take 3rd at the end of it. And Brady Carr classified 4th, with Yeaman finishing in P5. It's Benjamin Johnson and Jamie Dyke who finished 6th and 7th. Matthew Bowler finishing where he started in 8th place. But considering everything that happened, I think a quiet race is a good race. Zach Mitchell and Blake Delaney rounding out the top 10.
Lachlan Capel rounds out 11th spot after his tumultuous race. Michael Whiting and Scott Rankin, after his very unfortunate caution incident, finishes 13th, and then all the cars are lapped down. Cam Dance the first after his, and Dan Stevens innocent bystander mid-race. Thomas Hinz as well, 3 laps down. Blair Bowler 5 laps down. Nathan Gardner did finish the race, although 8 laps down, and then all of our non-finishers were Job Stewart, Sebastian Flock, Bailey Frid, Stephen Grimmer, Mitch McLeod, Tom Wilkinson, and Corey McFarlane going out within the first 10 laps. And that was, we're hoping for something like Vegas, but I think we got a little bit of Vegas mixed with Gateway tonight. That was a very mixed bag.
Yeah, indeed it was. And the engine is finally gone on that Altus Esports number 30, so hopefully we get Matt Danson here in the comms box sooner rather than later. We do, however, have our 2nd and 3rd place finishers here, so I think we'll go in reverse top 3 order. First up, we shall have a chat to Tyson Broad. That was a great run from you, Tyson, starting in 16th and up to 3rd, but my goodness, it was quite difficult to negotiate with the amount of cautions we had.
Yeah, and especially since I was, well, I think some would say a contributing factor to one of them, but yeah, really good to come from a lap down to finish P3.
Just talking about that incident briefly, what was your intentions with that? Obviously, you wanted to get your lap back.
Yeah, well, that was just the main point was just to get my lap back, and yeah, I made my pass clean as anything, and yeah, the others behind me decided to crash, so I don't feel as though I did anything wrong.
Yeah, I would agree with you there, Tyson. But either way, getting a podium after what has been a bit of a rough season for you, it must certainly lift your spirits going into the final 3 rounds.
Yeah, I mean, it started off this season pretty well with a top 5, and then sort of had a hiccup in the next 2 events, but then Richmond last week getting 6, and then obviously here with P3. So yeah, really good run so far at getting there.
Getting there indeed. Is there anyone you'd like to thank for your podium before we let you go, Tyson?
Just my esports and the series organisers.
Thanks very much for joining us. Tyson Broad, 3rd place here tonight. 2nd place, well, he led most of the way, but had to settle for 2nd at the end. Sam Blacklock stood by with Mr. Brad Wingard.
Sam, welcome back. We love seeing you here, and bit of a good result after a very unfortunate one last week. But we were very curious on why you decided to pit with about 12 laps to go, I think, under caution.
Yeah, I just wasn't happy with the car. I had a few moments while leading, and I didn't want to risk or take any risks. So, yeah, I thought maybe it was a safe option, but I guess it wasn't. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, to go from 7th to 2nd in that last restart, it definitely helped. But yeah, I think if I'd held track position, I probably could have stayed there.
Yeah, it was one of those you're done if you do, you're done if you don't sort of races. And I think playing it safe towards the end was, well, evidently a good idea, because those fresh tyres just gave you a monumental advantage on those closing laps. Do you think if we didn't have that last caution, you probably could have beaten Matt, or do you reckon it was still a little too difficult to get up there and win it?
Oh no! If we hadn't had that last caution, it was definitely on. Yeah, I think even another lap of that race, I could have had a better shot. I did get close on or towards the end of the last lap, but I just didn't have enough enough time. And I also had early in the, I think it was just after the restart, I went around the outside of someone, and yeah, I lost a bit of time because they washed up into me. So I don't know. It is what it is. I'm a bit bummed not to be leading, especially on a round where Cam didn't score too many points, but we'll take it. And yeah, great to have an Altus one too.
Yeah, it always is. We go to Twin Ring Motegi next week, the Grand Prix layout. What are your thoughts on that one? And it's going to be different. Everyone's been on these alternating road courses, so do you reckon it's going to be a nice clean race, or what are your thoughts going into it?
I'm actually really looking forward to it. It's going to be my first road race in this series because I missed round 1. So I'm looking forward to the challenge. But yeah, as always, we're just aiming to have a bit of fun, and it's a track I like. Driven F3A there a few times, and so I've driven open wheels around there before, but this is a whole different beast. So yeah, I think be pretty awesome. And see if anyone's learned anything since round 1.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting, because that was a very up and down race at Road America for a lot of people. Before we let you go, anyone you would like to thank tonight?
Yeah, just a big thanks to Altus Esports, and also Matt, my teammate, for racing. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we will see you next week at Twin Ring Motegi, and congratulations on another solid result.
Thanks.
Excellent stuff there from Sam Blacklock. And finally, we go to his teammate Matt Danson, who came home with victory tonight, starting from 6th. Matt, it seemed like it was just your typical meticulous planned race from the moment the green flag dropped, just trying to take it easy behind your teammate Sam Blacklock and staying out of trouble. Seemed to be the main thing tonight.
Yeah, definitely. I'm not super familiar with these. I mean, the only other race I've done in this would be the the Indy 500 once upon a time, and then Gateway. So yeah, we're sort of just trying to learn it as I went, and then hoping, knowing what Atlanta's like in the stock cars here, where it just murders tires. I was hoping that that was going to sort of come into it, and different periods it kind of looked like it might be happening, but we, just as it would sort of start to, I felt, swing my way, then we get a caution and whatnot. But yeah, then once I end up behind Sam, I was just I was trying to do what I could, and then just gave him the the left right good night into the pits, sent him there, and then it was just about holding track position.
You definitely got a little scare under the last caution when Scott Rankin spun in front of you. What was that like from your perspective?
Yeah, it was definitely a scare, that's for sure. I mean, I was just cruising around, just surveying the scenery, and then I was alongside him not long before that, and then next thing I know, he's I think he was trying to burn fuel or something, and he's dropped the clutch, and around he goes, and I was just I was trying to avoid, but also not wreck myself in the process, and that was thankfully successful. But it was actually, I don't know where he came from on that previous. I think I was so used to being like the second car in line, or being in dirty air. I think I just drove super slow through 1 and 2 and gave him that big run. So I guess the racing gods smiled upon me and gave me a second chance. And yeah, it fell my way.
That it did. Well, can we expect you in future rounds of this season? I know that your participation hasn't been at every single round, but do you feel like you can keep yourself in here and lend some support to Sam and his driver's title challenge?
Yeah, actually, now that you say that, I should have, I probably should have been trying to take the win from him, because I forget that he's in the championship. But I've intended to do the other races. It's just been like, life has sort of come up in the way. So yeah, if I can, if I can get along to the others, for sure, because awesome broadcast, getting to listen to your beautiful voice, and the whole SimSpeed crew, and everyone who organises it. It's obviously super well run. So if I can get along, I definitely will. Yeah, we'll see.
Well, hopefully we do get a chance to talk to you once again, Matt. But before we do let you go, anyone you'd like to thank for your victory? Who got it done for you tonight? Did
Sam get the sponsors out of the way?
I don't believe so.
Oh, he is just the worst, isn't he? The championship guy, and he doesn't get our sponsors. All right, well, obviously we got to shout out Logitech G for everything they do for us, the whole team. Virtual Racing School. Probably wouldn't have been able to dodge that Rankin's spin there if not for my Direct Force Pro. Cube controls, obviously super quality rims there. Racetech seats, probably the comfiest seats you can get. Racetech Gaming there with their new line. But like I said, everyone at SimSpeed that gets everything done here, you guys for you beautiful voices, like I said. What is it, AOG? Everyone who runs the whole thing behind the scenes. And yeah, just friends and family who happen to tune in, if they do so, hello. And thank you to Sam for pitting and giving me track position.
And thank you very much for joining us, Matt Danson. Great win tonight in that number 30. Well, Brad, that brings to an end proceedings for tonight, but the fun doesn't stop for Fixed Indy Australia. Next round next week, Twin Ring Motegi, the final round before our late season break. Back to road courses. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, it really is. And Road America had a little bit of elevation change, but nothing like we'll experience here. The runs from turn 5 up to turn 9 and 10, and then down the hill towards turn 11 and turn 12 is such a fantastic piece of racetrack, and it's going to be really great to see these guys come around here. So I'm very excited for that next week.
As am I. You'll be able to catch that on the 11th of February at 9 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time. And of course, we've got plenty to come here on SimSpeed TV this weekend. Not only do we have the international region of the majors, the Daytona 500 tomorrow afternoon, we have also got the Oceanic Sim Racing Bathurst 12-hour presented by Logitech G. We'll be bringing you 6 hours of coverage starting the race and ending the race on Sunday. So if you're interested in that, make sure that you tune in. Chuck us a subscribe as well here at SimSpeed TV, and hit the bell so that you know when our broadcasts are happening next. I'm Reese Gardner. Brad Wingard was alongside me. What a race it was here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. The championship fight continuing to tighten up here in Fixed Indy Australia by Aussie Online Gaming. We'll see you next time.